From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, Lean Mean Mailbag, Ireland schedules, and is a position coach on the hot seat going into 2023. Wake Up Warchant is presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday for only $8.99 on Thursdays. Cheese steak sandwich, chicken or steak, your choice. And, of course, that side dish, straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. Choose from one of those. It's only $8.99 at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Thursday nights, bingo night as well. So get on over there. Win some money. What, $250 up for grabs, Corey? $200 up for grabs?
$250 each round, so really $750 is up for grabs. Maybe $1,000. It's $250 each round. Maybe there's 4 rounds, but yeah, it's either $750 or $1,000. Yeah.
Get on out there. Check it out. The Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway here in
Plus, there'll be
Tallahassee.
basketball on.
Yeah.
Tonight. There'll be tournaments on.
Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Promo code, don't have a promo code. Just show up there. Sign up. It's $29.99 for access from now up until September 1st. Do it. Thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, 5-star rating and review. Practice going on later tonight or this evening, afternoon. Corey and I will be live. 8 o'clock, Corey. You want to do it?
I do want to do it. I'm a little worried about my technology up here. Well, I could go buy some cheap headphones. So, yeah, we could do it. We could do it if you want, 8 o'clock. If you're down for it, you're the one that has to be out at practice.
Yeah. All right. Questionable. Probable.
Stay tuned.
Questionable. Corey, let's just get to the mailbag. Let's get right to it. No pomp and circumstance. Lots of questions about scheduling and such. But the first one, though, is about recruiting a little bit. Penny Pat 47. I think they're new around these parts. Which also, by the way, Graynol apparently was the person you hung out with on the cruise ship. And they said, it was great meeting you, Corey. They said that in the comments on one of the shows.
Oh, all right. Okay. Graynol. I mean, there were a couple of them. I wonder if that's Eric. Okay. There was also Dan Willis, but I met him before at Corner Pocket, our man Dan. So I'm not sure if that's him or not. But either way, whoever I hung out with and met, how crazy is that, by the way? There's just people that on a cruise ship that listen to the show and are fans of the show. So that's cool. Yeah. Humbling, I would say.
And also shout out to Brady, not Brady Clark, but shout out to Brady Clark all the time, always. But the young man
not
that
this
was
week. Brady Clark's struggling a little bit. He's not. His mom and his dad aren't real fired up with Brady Clark right now.
All right, well, Brady, head down, 1 foot in front of the other. But the young man named Brady that was at practice watching atop Hauser on Tuesday night, it was like, hey, Jeff Cameron, oh my God, Corey Clark, oh my God.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Back to Penny Pat though. I want to get your opinions when ranking prospects. Do you feel that competition should be looked at as well? I'm going to give you an example. Running back Cam Davis from Doherty High. Daughtry or Doherty? Doherty, I think. Doherty High School. Albany?
Yes.
Albany?
Yes, yeah.
In Albany. 4-star back. His high school, though, has played teams that were 68-68. The teams they beat were 38-65. That's horrible competition. His opinion, not mine. Some of those teams look like middle school teams. I don't think he puts up stats like that against talent like Buford, Lowndes, Warner Robins, Westlake, Lee County, Colquitt, etc. Your thoughts? When they recruited DeMarco Ward, it was summer of last year, so things weren't great around here. Obviously, that 10-win season changed everything. But he committed in the summer. We needed linebackers. Didn't particularly have a lot of great offers. And I remember looking at his film, and listen, I'm not a film junkie or anything, but some things I think all of us can kind of maybe tell. You're like, all right, that's not bad. But it was like 7 or 8 clips, but it was 6 of the same game. Like you could tell. It was the same field, same uniforms, same light of day. You could tell it was the same game. And you're like, man, that's never a good sign when you're pretty much just showing highlights from one game. Like you want to show pretty much you making plays every single game. And then I looked up the team he was playing, and I was like, oh, that's not a good team. Like the team that he ended up that was predominantly his junior year highlights or his senior year highlights, because he's here at Florida State now, were against a team that went like 2-10. So I was like, well, that's not great. But again, they know what they want to see. I don't know if he came to a camp or not, but I'm sure they obviously did their due diligence and stuff. So me as a guy who doesn't, measure these guys out and put them through drills that I think will translate to what I want my scheme to be if I'm a Randy Shannon in this example as a linebacker, I probably only need a scant amount of evidence from tape. But for me as a guy that doesn't know what these guys are really going through, I'm like, well, that's not a great sign. So, yes, competition should be looked at, but I don't know how much it is factored in, Corey. We can ask
it should be factored in, but I mean, I think more than anything, they're looking at the measurables, the ability. Like, look, if you're getting the right players, they're all going to look dominant in their high school film. You hope. So they're all going to look like they're going to be making a huge jump in competition, no matter if they're playing at Lowndes, because Lowndes still plays. Well, I don't know. I was going to say Tift County and Ware County, I don't know, schools in South Georgia, but I don't want to besmirch those fine institutions because they might be really good at football and I don't know it. But they're still playing teams where they will dominate, and you could put up big numbers against them. Cam Akers, was he ever challenged in high school? Was he ever tackled in high school?
He played the highest level, though, of Mississippi high school football.
No, he did, but weren't they just rolling folks? Like they might have 2 tough games a year?
No, that was a tough region. Madison Central, Pearl, who they played in the
Then maybe Trey Benson. Is that a better example, maybe?
Probably, because he played 3A football.
Yeah. So, and look, man, it's the measurables. Trey Benson probably did have games where he wasn't tackled. Yes. He either ran out of bounds after a 14-yard gain or just scored 7 touchdowns, and that was the end of the game, or that was the end of his night. So I get what you're saying. You'd like to see them against Miami Northwestern. You'd like to see them busted off against IMG with all these other high-level D1 recruits. But the reality is, unless you're recruiting guys that play IMG a lot or at IMG, you're not going to be able to judge so much on the competition during Friday nights. Occasionally you'll get a matchup with a wide receiver and a DB where they're both really good, or a lineman goes up against another college lineman. But by and large, they're going to be dominant or look much superior to the players they're going against. That's why the camp stuff matters in the summer a lot, more than it ever has. And it's also just about measurables and what you think you can do with them. If they run a 4.44 as a 17-year-old, you're like, yeah, we can work with that. We can work with that, whether they're playing a bunch of 2-8 high school teams or 9-1 high school teams. But yeah, you could definitely find out a little more about someone when they're playing Buford. But it's such a team game, right? Yeah. Like when it comes to football, especially, like if you're a running back and you're playing a Buford defensive line that's just completely dominating your offensive line, well, what evaluations do you make there? What determinations do you make there? I think it's kind of relative to the comp. Like, so he plays at Doherty.
Yeah.
So if they're playing Albany Westover, if the talent is similar, you're not vastly superior to them. They're not vastly superior to you. I feel like you get a pretty good gauge, right? As opposed to Doherty going up and getting their heads kicked in by Buford, and the kid has 9 carries for 10 yards because he just has nowhere to go. So yeah, I mean, I get the point. I understand the point, but it's you kind of have to take who you take. You can't just get guys that play great competition all the time because there's not a lot of it.
To your
point, that make
though,
any sense, or was that just rambling?
Yeah, no, it does. To your point, like running back especially, those are tools that translate.
And the question was running back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. All right.
So
that's why I was mentioning Cam Akers and Trey Benson, because I thought it was a running back specific question. But yeah, I mean, look, Matt Dunham, that was his name, right?
Yeah, Columbus, let's go.
Yeah, he has I think he has the Georgia State touchdown record. Yeah. I think he broke Herschel's record.
He did.
Well, he was playing a bunch of private schools. That clearly mattered. But then again, Herschel played single A in Wrightsville, Georgia, a tiny town, playing nothing but other really small schools that had probably 25 kids on their football team. And Herschel turned out okay. So I think it's, I just feel like it has more to do with the player who the player actually is and your ability to evaluate than it does the competition at the high school level.
You see that stuff with the player from Detroit Mercy, like on a team that was 5 games below 500, mad that they didn't get a postseason berth to break Pete Maravich's scoring record?
Yeah, because he finished. I watched the game. He was playing in his conference tournament, and he was 3 points away from, I think, breaking the record or tying the record. And they were also down 3 points in the championship game, I think, or the semifinals. And they were terrible this year. They were like 10-15, but they were hanging with the number 1 team in the conference on their home court. And he missed a 3 at the buzzer that would have either tied the record or broke the record. And then it's like, he got all miffed because they didn't play in another tournament.
Right.
And it's like, man, what? I just, like, he averaged 17 points per game for his career. And he played 5 or 6 seasons or whatever it was. He's a fine player. Kudos to him for finishing number 2 all time. But Pete Maravich played 3 seasons because freshmen weren't allowed to play back then. Pete Maravich never hit a 3-pointer in his career because they weren't a thing. And he still averaged 44 points a game for his career. I feel like he deserves the all-time scoring record. Not a kid that played 6 seasons and hit, 300 3-pointers. So that's 1,800 of his. He might have hit 400. I don't know. That half his points might have been 3-pointers. If the 3-pointer was around when Pete Maravich played, or if he got to play his freshman year, he would have. The record would be so far out of reach that nobody would sniff it. So it seemed odd for him in that moment to be griping that he didn't get a chance to play.
Also, last thing on this, I was listening to the Rosillo pod. He had Todd McShay on, and McShay was just talking about talent and some of his sleeper picks in the draft. And they started talking about Iowa. Like, Iowa apparently has got like the 8th most players in the NFL right now. And McShay was like anecdotally just talking about all the players that most of the players that end up going like to the NFL from Iowa, like all their difference makers. Usually are these kids that have played 8-man football. It's like they just constantly get these 2-star kids. Like they're one of those programs that just consistently gets these kids that don't get high rankings, probably aren't playing great competition, yet somehow they see something that makes them think, all right, we can work with this kid. And then most of the time they have great careers, but they don't play on a great offense, and it's Iowa. So
I was going to say they recruit kids that don't like to score touchdowns. Clearly.
It's not an offense for playmakers, is what I'm saying.
No, it is not. It is an offense for punters.
Big B 7034. Wake up. Morning, gentlemen. Kari here. Let's talk linebackers. With Tatum Bethune, Kalen DeLoach, and DJ Lundy, we have 3 decent players who have been in the system for multiple years with unproven players behind them. How crucial is this season to the development of that position? Will Randy Shannon be allowed to develop the players he recruits, or do you see him, quote, moving on like Marcus Woodson did? I feel like this is the one position that outside of Bethune last year, they did not upgrade through the portal. As always, go Noles.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's tenuous at that position. I don't know what his job security is. I do know that, I wasn't really pleased with how DeLoach played for most of last season. I don't know if he was hurt or a little. Well, not he wasn't injured clearly because he played, but he wasn't anywhere. To me, he didn't play anything like the kid that finished up 2021 or the kid that played in the LSU game in 22. He was all over the field in that game. He looked like one of the best players on the field. And then I don't know. He missed a tackle on a 4th down against Louisville. I forgot. It came right before the Greedy Vance interception. No, not Greedy Vance, Kevin Noles. To wrap up the game, but he had a chance to wrap up the game on a kid in the flat, and he just missed the tackle. I don't know if that spiraled him or something, but he just was not the same player for most of last year. But Brendan Gant did develop a little bit, and DJ Lundy did develop. So you have to give credit there that some guys did develop. Bethune was banged up, but Bethune was certainly a positive addition. You've got to see what happens with Graham, Nicholson, and Ward. Are any of these guys going to get enough run in 2023 to get people excited about their potential? I think Nicholson's probably the most talented of the bunch, certainly seems to be the most athletic, but he's not here right now. So how much can you expect him to develop in 1 month before the season starts? And then Bethune's gone. I guess we don't know about DeLoach. I don't even know what it's hard to know what anybody's classification is anymore. I don't know if DeLoach is a senior, a redshirt sophomore. But they're going to lose at least Bethune, And you've got to hope you start filling these holes because, yes, they have not – linebacker has not been a point of pride in this program for about 10 years now. They have not been very good at that position. I think this year they will be decent if they stay healthy, but still there's a void there. But, hey, maybe Brendan Gant. Brendan Gant's a guy that I want to watch a lot more in the spring. Like, what's he going to be? How much is he going to play for this team? Because he played some important snaps last year, and he's a veteran who they like. So I'm interested to see how much a part of the defense he's going to be.
Both Kalen DeLoach and Brendan Gant are redshirt seniors.
I mean, yeah. So you've got those two. You've got Bethune. Yeah, that's you've got to, and the portal is open, and they will get some guys in the portal. But yeah, I wouldn't be adverse to when this bad boy when April 15th comes and goes, in the spring showcase, I guess is what we're calling it now, not a spring game. So be forewarned there. A lot of 2-point conversions. That when that is over on April 16th, there might be another addition or two on the defense, but sometime between April 16th and I don't know, man, July 4th.
All right, fair.
And linebacker would be a good spot. I don't. Like he said, like Kari said, there's not a lot of proven commodities there, man. Steven Dix, we'll believe in him when we see it. Graham
safety too, though. I wonder why we're not talking about safety, or have we already talked?
No,
about
we are. I mean,
enough?
we talk about safety a lot. It was just a linebacker specific question. I would want one of each. I would want one of each. Our man, the kid at Louisiana Tech, he's still bouncing around out there somewhere. Grubbs. I want somebody that's played a lot of football that can come into Florida State and challenge for a starting role and be a not a serviceable backup, but a rotation player that can get out there and play.
I mean, listen, no team, although maybe LSU, although no, on defense they didn't. Like it's like the whole not an adage, but like the I don't even know, like the hackneyed phrase of just no team has 11 All-Americans on the field, right? Right. Like you like what you're going to have up front. You feel like you have pretty good cornerbacks, and Renardo Green, hopefully Fentrell Cypress continues to get his feet underneath him. Akeem's good enough, you would hope. Hopefully Shaim can step up, and then linebacker just kind of seems to be that. I don't even know. You compare that to safety; they're almost kind of on the same level of like, all right, there's a piece there. Like Tatum is almost, I don't know, he's probably a little bit better at his position than Akeem is at his position, but I think we probably like Shaim a little bit more, or think there's a little bit more of a ceiling there than maybe a guy like DeLoach or Gant because they've been here for so long. But obviously, man, if they can play together, connected. If this was Leonard talking about his defense. Should be good enough with this schedule and this offense to make it through on the right side and still play into January. I know that wasn't your question, Bakari, but, it's just like me subtweeting everybody that just hates the linebacking core so bad and is panicked. Like, it kind of is what it is, but maybe the portal will be helpful. M. Adam CZ, also known in some corners as Mark from Naples. Wake up! All right, Corey, you're fresh back from vacation, and you guys are going hard at it with content and shows. Those of us starving for FSU content appreciate it. What do you think about Mike Norvell announcing that FSU will play a Labor Day game only 9 days after the 2024 opener against Georgia Tech in Ireland? I was kind of surprised. Who would the opponent be? I mean, it has to be a home game, and we don't want a particularly strong opponent after the Ireland trip. And if it's a Labor Day game, would the ACC and ESPN schedule Boston College, North Carolina, or North Carolina State for a primetime Labor Day game? Those are kind of snoozers, but they're the only home game options I see if it's an ACC game. And we could easily trip up over any of them if there's a hangover from the trip to Ireland. I hope it ends up being a smart move and we'll then have a bye before hosting Memphis at home. Go Noles.
Yeah, Mark. Hey, tell Lauren I said hey. Me and Stephanie say hey. It's a good question. I mean, I think it's going to be Boston College. That would make the most sense. That's kind of the whispers we've heard anyway, that it would be Boston College. And in that sense, you can't ask really for a better start to a conference season than Georgia Tech in Ireland instead of in Atlanta, although you would have had a lot of fans in Atlanta too. But you'll be the home team in Ireland. because there'll be 11 Georgia Tech fans. So you're going to have basically a pseudo, I mean, I'm not even calling it a pseudo home game. You won't be, it's a road game that you'll at least have most of the crowd in Ireland. And then you have a home game against two of the worst programs in the conference. And with that season and the way 2024 starts and all the people we project you to be losing, that's a good way to start the season, right? Like starting it with two of the weaker teams on your schedule. We assumingly that's not a word, but presumably two of the worst teams on your schedule. And then, I would think you'd get a bye week after that. But the Monday night to me makes sense because of the travel. Like if you just had a regular Saturday game right after that, that would be bizarre, right? Like you'd go play Georgia Tech in Ireland, come back, Sunday morning, get all the jet lag and everything that comes with traveling that far and then having like a normal week to play a Saturday again. I think that makes the most sense to me to have a home game on a Monday night like that following a Saturday in another country. So you get, and I think they're going to do their sightseeing and everything on that Sunday after the Georgia Tech game in Ireland. The team's going to stay an extra day. So that will give them time to go see the sights and do what they're over there to do after hopefully winning the game. And then still get back and have a normal week starting that Monday. They get to have a normal week, what feels like a normal week going into the Boston College game.
One of the moderators on the message board was saying, I guess with the way the schedule's laid out, this probably means Florida State. I don't know if it's really technically 3 byes, but you'll have 3 weeks of like no Saturday game for Florida State. So kind of by virtue, you'll have those added days off. So there's a little bit of a,
Wasn't that the case this year? Kind of, if you count like the Saturday before LSU, the Saturday after Florida.
Yeah.
I feel like they had, they obviously had 1 bye. I feel like they had the Saturday after Louisville.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they had 4 or 5 Saturdays they didn't play.
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of the pros and the cons of this whole thing. Obviously, is the con is having to come back to America and play football again. It's the first game of the season. But to Corey's point, I don't even know what the 24 composite schedule looks like for the ACC. I tried to look at it when you were answering the question, Corey, but I couldn't find it. So I don't even know who is all on the menu for Florida State to play that year. But Boston College, I know Clemson and Miami and then Syracuse are always going to be on the menu. But I don't know who's going to be home and away. I just right now with the way things are trending, it seems like Boston College is like that. If that's who it would be, can't complain about that at all, man. They're probably in the bottom tier right now. When they lose, Zay Flowers is the only playmaker they had, and he's gone. And I like Jeff Halfley, but that thing is obviously not working out all that great. So when you have this not true.
What has ever worked out great at Boston College since they joined the conference? Matt Ryan for a year. They were like 5-1 in the COVID year, man. He was strong. He was a COVID coach that was killing it year 1. Yeah.
And not so much since then. Oh, I'm killing it because I got vitamin energy coursing through my veins, Corey. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is Warchant, BOGO. That means buy one, get one free. Courtesy of our friends at Vitamin Energy that are Florida State alums. So not only supporting the show when you use the promo code Warchant, BOGO, you're supporting yourself because there's vitamins and it gives you energy via 260 milligrams of natural caffeine, but you're also helping some fellow alums, some fellow fans of the favorite team of yours. So check out VitaminEnergy.com. I'm going to pop open the Immune. This is my last one of the Tango Orange. It's my favorite flavor because I'm a citrus guy, Florida genetics and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to get me going for a full day on Thursday because we might do a live show, but we'll be out at practice covering it, and I'll get a lift in beforehand, and I won't even bat an eye to it, Corey, because I'll be totally fueled up and ready to rock. Maybe Brady needs some of this. Have you incorporated this into the Get Brady at 110% functionality plan? Maybe he needs
but I
more.
will. I think tonight and tomorrow I'm going to take the mood one.
Okay, there we go.
Just so I can be around them and not want to strangle them. So yeah, I want to lighten up, be a dad that maybe we have a dialogue and not just me yelling at him. So I'm going to be taking the mood vitamin energy for sure.
It does everything. Makes everything better. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Warchant, BOGO. Shake it and take it. All right, back at it. Noel Boyo 2. Good morning, gentlemen. With all the talk of Ireland, it got me thinking of the of all the neutral site games FSU has played in, what's your top 3 neutral site games of all time? I guess we're not gonna count bowl games. Let's not count bowl games. He ranks LSU this past year number 1, Ole Miss 2016 number 2, Alabama and Jacksonville back in 2007 number 3. Also, how early is Corey going to have to leave if he's traveling by boat? Thanks for all you do.
The week before. Thank you. Those are really good choices. I don't know that I'm going to rank them, but I'll throw out some more possibilities. You've got the 91 Pigskin Classic against BYU and reigning Heisman Trophy winner Ty Detmer. And Florida State was preseason number 1 and beat them like 44-28 or something. It was 44-14, and then they gave up a couple late touchdowns, but they were dominant. Ampli scored a bunch of touchdowns, so did Edgar Bennett. And then the 93 game when they beat Kansas in the Meadowlands, and they had the goal line stand that was like 11 plays long.
Yes,
those were 2 very memorable neutral site games. Those came immediately to mind. But I was also a teenager back then, so they're always bouncing around back there. Formative years. You remember those a little more fondly.
You were there, Kansas City, 2002, Iowa State, Seneca Wallace, Stone.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay. What about 96 Notre Dame in Orlando?
Was it 96? I thought it was 94.
94, was it 94? Was it the year after?
Yeah, it was. I think it was 94. Yeah, it was the year after they lost to them in South Bend. Yeah, that was a good one too, because Florida State ran for like 400 yards. Like Rock Preston and Warwick Dunn both had 170. They've like 170 or more. They've had a lot of entertaining neutral site games, but I know it's probably recency bias, and I know it also had as much to do with like the trip itself and everything surrounding it and just the excitement. But that New Orleans game was right up there, man. That LSU game, not just because it ended in such a weird, bizarre, spectacular fashion, but just the whole build-up to it and all the Noles and Bourbon Street. It had been 20 years since you'd been there. That was cool.
I'm going to zag. Was it 2008 or 9 when I'll stick it in Jacksonville. We'll swap out number 3 Alabama because that game was gross. It just was.
You going to say Colorado?
Yeah, man. Yeah, the Colorado game.
Okay. All right. I see you.
I was there for that one,
fair.
so I remember it vaguely. But yeah, it's good. It's a good thing about being a national brand, y'all. Iconic brand. You get to play all these games in exotic locales like Jacksonville, so that's fantastic. Moving on, Corey. We got NIL over everything, but maybe it's NI lover everything. So maybe they're a Northern Illinois fan. Who knows? Greetings, not gratings. That'd be weird. Greetings and salutations, gentlemen. Wake up. I want to thank Warchant for successfully helping me through another frigid Boston winter. Boston is also the birthplace of Jordan Travis's career at Florida State, where he took his first snap at FSU, a 26-yard touchdown to the right, and the rest is history. My screen just went to sleep. Why'd you do that? I'm a Spring 13 graduate. Fun fact, during an on-campus date auction back in 2012, I was purchased for more money than Jameis Winston. E.J. Manuel was in the same auction. I can confirm he got the Stephanie double take at Mike Norvell treatment. He went for an ungodly amount of money. That's awesome, man. Good for you getting more money than Jameis Winston. Look at you. Put your photo in your avatar.
That's before Jameis was Jameis.
But we knew, right? We knew. We were all waiting on this guy to show up. We knew. But anyhow.
Well, I don't quite he was auctioned off. They give out, you can auction off a date?
Yeah, back in 2012, man. It's before me, too. It's a different time.
I guess, yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah, you never saw the Saved by the Bell episode where they auction off dates?
But what's the, is it just like...
It goes to a charity. It's probably like some philanthropical...
I'm sure, but like, what are the rules?
endeavor.
Like, how long do you have to spend with the person? There's got to be guidelines. If you're spending a amount of money, there's got to be like strict... It can't just be, hey... We're going to get a coffee. I'm going to get mine to go. This has been fun in 3 minutes. I mean, I feel like it has to be at least 90 minutes, right?
Maybe it's like a gift card. Maybe you also like got a gift card for, Zaxby's. And then you sat at Zaxby's and had your chicken fingers or something,
And if there's a second date, we'll pay for it. I wonder if that was ever said, like the love connection.
Right.
But yeah, I wonder if there was a second date. I want more about this story. We
Yeah.
talk about Florida State football too much. I want to know how the auction turned out.
Yeah, let us know was there a second date? Were you excited about the person that, did the person who finished second, would you rather her have won, or were you happy with who won and bid all that money for you? Yeah, let us know these things. All right, he's got a question, though. Given the hype surrounding Jared Verse this year and FSU's legacy at the defensive end position, who are your top 5 defensive ends of the last 10 years? Look at that, only 10 years. And does Jared Verse make that list? Yeah, right?
Yep.
He's got to.
Yeah.
How many sacks this season would he need to be on that list? Well, he's already there. If he had 15, I'd probably vault him to number 1, right? Jermaine's up there. Bjorn Warner second, Jermaine first, or Bjorn first?
I don't think you can
Jermaine
count
second?
Bjorn Warner. His last year was 2012. So if we're just going 10 years, he just snuck out of it. Like if he counts, then yeah, he's probably my number 1 if he counts. Brian Burns is 1A.
There you go.
So let's let 2012 count. So Brian Burns definitely counts. Or sorry, Werner counts.
Okay.
So I'd go Burns, Werner, Mario Edwards, Jermaine Johnson, and Jared Verse, right?
Yeah.
Is there anybody I'm missing that's like obvious? Like not Josh Sweat, not J-Rob, not Kane Doe, not all the other 5-star freaks. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the 5, right? If you can count Bjorn.
Christian Jones played outside linebacker? He really was in defensive end. So.
Yeah, they moved him to D end in 13. And he was nice. He was a good player there, but he wasn't incredible. He wasn't as good as the guys we just mentioned anyway.
I'm sure, who was playing? Well, DeMarcus Walker, right? DeMarcus Walker's got to be in there.
Yeah, that's who people were just screaming at. So who do you take off then? Let's take off Warner.
Ooh,
since he was
all
technically
right.
2012. Okay. And let's let DeMarcus Walker roll in there.
4th?
But yeah, I think...
And then Verse 5th?
And then Verse is 5th, yeah.
I think we're going to get a lot of pushback on Burns being first.
Over who? Well, I mean, it could be him and Walker. I was just saying...
I think people would say Jermaine. I think because we're so in recency bias right now. I think Jermaine would be ahead of Brian Burns.
I don't know, man. I think what Burns has done at the next level, and then you kind of consider the not great defenses he played on, he was more impressive than we even knew, and we knew he was good. I would say DeMarcus Walker is number 1 out of that crew if we're ranking them, just on sheer production. His junior and senior year, his senior year specifically, he was one of the best players in the United States, but he was really good as a junior. I would say, and then Verse, I just think because you'll get 2 years of it, and Jermaine, you only got 1.
Oh, yeah.
Like Jermaine's 2021 might be better than Verse's 2022 and 2023 by themselves, but if you combine those 2 years and what he meant to the team and the defense, I think he could vault Jermaine and get at least close to DeMarcus if he has a big year.
That's crazy. I was almost kind of rolling my eyes when he's our legacy at the defensive end position, and he says 10 years. I'm like, well, come on, that's not letting us really explore the space, really dive into all the greatness here. But then it's like, shoot, look at that. Sure enough, 5 bad
guys. He was right.
So,
and we didn't get to count
Bjorn.
Bjorn Von Stryker.
Oh, and then what about Brandon Jenkins? Would have been in there if he would have been since 2010. We had some guys there that were really productive, man.
Yeah, Tank Carradine was really good.
Yes, right. Good. Tennessee Esquire chimed in to say that he thinks Randy Shannon will not be retained beyond this year unless he pulls a Ron Dugans and does really well in high school recruiting this year. But then you lose some of your gusto when you say that you think that Thompson's time is limited also. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think Mike likes him
it's a tight end coach. But, I mean, look, man, I get it. It's just I think we're still in the and we were talking about it on headlines too because Ira was pushing back on Jeff for saying very much the same thing that Tennessee Esquire just said. We kind of still view these coaches as products of the 1990s, 2000s, 2010s, and we're not thinking about the portal. Like, yeah, you can say Ron Dugan's job was secure because he got Hakeem Williams. All right, fine. Johnny Wilson sure didn't hurt. Micah Pittman didn't hurt. Having Winston Wright this year, all of a sudden Ron Dugans looks like a lot better coach. And I think that so the portal makes such a big difference when it comes to this. I don't know that we can just I don't know, man. If half your roster is transfers, I don't know that you can just use solely as a judge how this guy is recruiting high school talent. How's he getting 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, guys that have played college football before? How's he doing with them? And if he can't get guys out of the portal, to me, that's as big a problem, maybe bigger in 2023 and 2024 than getting high school guys. Because, yeah, man, I think we still kind of view these positions and what you want out of these positions through a lens that might not be the correct lens anymore. I think that Tatum Bethune is a bigger deal than getting Tatum Bethune was a bigger deal than getting Omar Graham, right?
Right.
So great, you signed a kid that might end up being a pretty good college linebacker. Well, you got a kid that already is a good college linebacker. That was a bigger deal. That was a nice moment for Randy Shannon. He needs to have a few more of those as far as acquiring talent, whether it's the portal or high school ranks. Go get some players.
Also, man, seemingly Blake Nicholson was their top, if not maybe lone target at linebacker. I know they had DeMarco Ward locked up early on, but they seem to really be very, very high on Blake Nicholson. They went and got him. So that's probably, reflecting well on Randy Shannon's ability to recruit. Now, I don't think there's really been anybody in South Florida that he's missed on where you could say, he fell asleep at the wheel. So maybe his recruiting prowess is being a little bit sort of, unfairly judged. But we'll see. Let's see how Blake Nicholson looks. Let's see how this defense looks. Maybe he'll have a raise. Who knows? We all thought Ron Dugans had one foot out the door maybe, and look at him now. Best unit in the conference. Best unit in the state. Get some.
Amen.
Final hoorah, if you ask me, when it comes to March Madness. We get one more solid weekend of games, wall-to-wall, Sweet 16, Elite 8. Bet on the action over at mybookie.ag using the promo code WARCHANT. That gets you a cash deposit bonus if you're a first-time user of MyBookie. Going to stick with what I gave you the other day, although it's been moving a little bit. We're going to still take the under on UConn and Arkansas. It's now up to 140 points, the total. We're going to take the under on that, which kind of makes me a little bit nervous. But all this makes me nervous. Michigan State's creeped up to a 1.5-point favorite. I like Kansas State. That line is stinky, in my opinion, like as Scott Van Pelt would say on his show. So I feel like that means we have to lean into it and think that Michigan State's going to win by more than that. So we're going to be all over Michigan State. UCLA is steady, 1.5-point favorite over Gonzaga. Sounds a little bit generous for Gonzaga, which should be stinky, and may we hop on Gonzaga. But we're going to lean into UCLA as well. Parlay all those if you want to. Maybe do them one by one or fade me. It's all right. I won't begrudge you at all. But go to mybookie.ag where you can bet anything, anytime, anywhere, and make sure you use that promo code WARCHANT. Armchair Osceola, top of the morning to you, lads. Which, by the way, shout out to everybody involved in the press conference on Tuesday for not saying that. I was telling Ira, I'm like, dude, how much you want to bet? I'm like, the money line right now is like minus 500. Somebody's going to say top of the morning to you when they get up to the podium. Nobody did. Nice. So proud of everybody. But Armchair Osceola said it. Corey, we've got 18 months for you to figure out air travel. We already know Stephanie is on that. I've done a little preliminary research. Here are some options for the War Chant Friday happy hour, August 23rd, 2024, Dublin, Ireland. The Gravedigger, established in 1833, or I'm sorry, rather plural, the Gravediggers.
Okay.
Established back in 1833. Mulligans, it was established in 1854. The Long Hall, like a hallway, not like hauling gear, but like hall, right. Like a hallway. That was established in 1766. And then the Stag's Head, established in 1780. The turnout in Garden and Gold is going to be insane. My brother and I already decided to go. We will be booking flights once they're available. Here's my question now. Thank you for the research, by the way, Armchair House. Really appreciate it. We'll have Stephanie.
I'm going to say Gravediggers is the clubhouse leader so far.
Okay.
Don't know anything about it. Haven't looked it up. I feel like that's our vibe.
Yeah. Question. We see FAU in the Sweet 16 and with a great team all year long. Yeah, I think they and Houston are tied for the most wins in Division
Yeah.
One. So I know we blame so much poor performance on NIL or lack thereof compared to other schools, but how can FAU or Fairleigh Dickinson put together solid tournament contenders and we cannot? Are we using NIL as too much of a scapegoat? Question mark. This is the basketball portion of the program. We got another one after this too, Corey. So
Okay. All right. No, I think NIL is just, look, Leonard Hamilton has a system that has worked when he has the right kind of players. One of the big complaints I had this season, and trust me, I complained about it a lot, especially early on when I still had some hope that something might be figured out, is you are allowed to tweak your system to fit the personnel you do have, not the personnel you want. That's part of coaching, and they failed miserably at that. There's no other way to put it. They just set their school record for losses in a season. So that coaching staff failed epically, historically, at figuring out a way to come up with a scheme or system that crew, that roster, the one they put together, that then missed Baba Miller for half the season, missed Gainey for the whole season, missed Fletcher for most of the season. Those were going to be important guys, and maybe their three best athletes, and they lost them all. They didn't change anything about the way they guarded, as far as I could tell. And that's why they were one of the worst defensive teams in the United States, like legitimately one of the worst defensive teams in the United States. That's on the coaching staff. That has nothing to do with NIL. I guess the issue, though, is even if you got the best coaches in the United States to just have a think tank about Florida State basketball for 10 hours a day, there was only so much you could do with that talent and what that roster looked like after the injury. There was only so much you could do. So instead of winning 9 games, maybe the greatest coach in the country, you get to 15 wins or 14 wins. A coach that had a great year and a great idea of how to accommodate this team. They still weren't going to be any good. But the NIL is what the NIL problem is. So again, I'm not. You can't shirk. Leonard Hamilton doesn't get to shirk responsibility because there were a few injuries and they can't recruit like they used to. Like, you're still allowed to coach to your talent, and they did a poor job by any measure. But they also are the Scotty Barneses and Patrick Williamses. Are they coming to Florida State? Like, it was always good to have one of those guys, right? Like, that 2021 team without Scotty Barnes is barely a tournament team, if at all. And they went to the Sweet 16 and were, a possession away from winning the ACC for a second straight year. Those Scotty Barneses make huge differences, and you're not getting them right now. A Scotty Barnes on this team in 2023, I don't know, man, what's he worth? 4 wins? 5 wins? No. Certainly not a tournament team, but that would have been a huge upgrade on what you saw. And so the talent, the roster does matter, and they're at a disadvantage. But I also don't think moving forward by the way, Leonard's made $50 million coaching basketball. He could pony up. You know what I mean? He's probably made $50 million just coaching Florida State. Probably that's not true, but maybe $30 million, $35 million. He makes over $2 million a year. Throw some money into the ring, Leonard. That's what Norvell did. Norvell donated $1 million. Go donate some money. But I don't think NIL will be a huge. I think they got caught right in the middle of when the portal blew up, and they did not exploit the portal like they should have at all. And then I think they recruited the way they always recruited, and it didn't matter because NIL blew up everything. Plus, they had lost their 2 best recruiters, in my opinion, in Gates and CY. Yeah. So it was a perfect storm of why this roster looked like this roster. But it's a fair question. I will say this about Fairleigh Dickinson, whatever we call him. It was 1 win. It was an incredible win. It's awesome that they did it. They didn't even win their conference, man. The team that won their conference wasn't allowed to go because it was their first year in Division I, so Fairleigh Dickinson got to go instead. So let's not act like he put together an incredible team. They had it's basketball. They had a really good game and a half because they hung with FAU too. But let's not throw them into the same category as FAU, who really did have a great year, 31 wins or whatever it is. So yeah, but FAU being the better example. They're good teams. They're good coaches. His guy might be an incredible coach. I think it's an older team, and he did a better job in 2023 than Leonard Hamilton did. Oh, but so it's not like Leonard gets carte blanche. He doesn't get to coach here in perpetuity. He needs to get this right. But it was a really bad year. FAU had a really good year. I can promise you there were 10 or 12 other ACC fan bases from 2017 to 2021 that were saying, why is Florida State so good all the time? We care more about basketball than Florida State. Why do we always suck? And Florida State's always in the Sweet 16 and challenging for the ACC titles. So the shoe's been on the other foot plenty of times. It's just these last 2 years, it has been a ugly foot, ugly shoe to really screw up that metaphor.
Yeah, I just don't understand. The portal has always been a huge part. Transferring has always been a huge part of college basketball. It's nothing new there. I mean, they missed. They missed on most everybody they went after here in this cycle. And it's what happened after they won the ACC title back in 2012, right, Corey? Like, that's why they had their rut. They miss, and I don't think NIL really is to blame for these misses, man.
I think NIL is to blame for, like, they were in on Dariq Whitehead. And I don't know how much money Dariq Whitehead got to go to Duke, but they had been recruiting him for a long time. And I'm just using him as an example. Maybe if NIL isn't a thing, they pulled Dariq Whitehead or somebody of that ilk, a top 10 player. Because they were getting like one star McDonald's All-American type player every 2 recruiting cycles. They got Patrick Williams, and they got Scotty Barnes. And then, Devin Vassell wasn't even that big a deal, and he ends up being better than all of them. But they were getting those types, Michael Snare, like going back to even that far, they would always get a guy. And then that has just dried up completely. Like none of these guys, I mean, I guess Matthew Cleveland was like top 40, but certainly isn't of the Scotty Barnes or Patrick Williams ilk. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I just think that
you constantly see all. I'm sorry, go. You finish, Corey. I apologize.
No, I was going to say you're right to say that maybe it wasn't the NIL because they did do it before. There is a precedent that was set that after they had that great run around the turn of the decade and won the ACC championship in 2012, they followed that up with a class of Monte Brandon, Michael Ojo, Boris Bojanowski, Devin Bookert, like Aaron Thomas, guys that didn't pan out. Bookert was a nice player. Ojo was pretty good his last year. That was about it. So they did miss. They didn't use that well. But, they from 16 to 21, they were really good on the recruiting trail, and they were a really good program. They were probably the fourth best, well, not probably, they were the fourth best program in the conference, in a really good conference. Duke, Carolina, and Virginia were the only ones that were consistently better, and they won more games than everybody else in the conference. And then they've just hit really rough times here. And you hope they can spin out of it is what you hope for.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, when you look at Twitter and you see these guys jumping in the portal every single day, and it's just like one guy after another, like, average 15 points, average 16 and 8. Like, all these guys are leaving these smaller programs, and it's like, listen, there's 300 Division I basketball programs, and you cannot unturn every stone out there. But, man, you need to be able to hit on some guys. And, they were recruiting pretty highly sought-after players. I mean, they went and got Caleb Mills from Houston. They went and got Cameron Fletcher from Kentucky. I mean, Bob Miller, you really can't say anything about because he was suspended for half the season. I mean, just a lot of these things did not work out, and they all didn't work out at the same time, which left them in such a poor position. But you look at these kids that are in the portal, it's like, man, just get 3 of these guys. Go get 3 of these decent guys, and you'll be all right.
Don't get 3 guys that, that are – again, if you can't get another Darren Green or Caleb Mills, that's not going to do anything for your culture or your program. And I like Darren Green as a player for what he is, but there's no way that guy should be playing 35 minutes a night at a place like Florida State. He just can't guard. When he's making his shots, he's an elite shooter. But when he's missing his shots, he is a negative impact basketball player for that team. And then Caleb Mills, well, he's been much discussed. We won't go into that, but I really think they thought the Gainey kid from Brown was going to be that guy. And not to give them a crutch or an out, but he was going to be their defensive presence. He was the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Ivy League. He's obviously a really bright kid, very, very athletic, 6'11", and can move, and they lost him before the season even started. And they had, through their own fault, because Naheem McLeod was on the roster, and he just can't do it. And they recruited him. Naheem McLeod didn't recruit himself to Florida State. They did. Naheem McLeod didn't not develop himself. They didn't. So they get blamed for that, what their roster was when Gainey went down. But they did try to address it, and they just got kind of unlucky. But again, the roster was in such a place that it's like, all right, man, what what would gain him mattered? Another 3-4 wins? It was still going to be a bad basketball team. Yeah. We got to get past that, Aslan. You're right, though. They're out there. Go find some guys that are a good fit that can go guard and can occasionally make some shots.
I don't know, man.
That's what I'm looking for.
I just want guys that make buckets. I know they got to defend to play Ham's system.
Bucket making was one of their problems, but keeping the other team from making buckets at will was their biggest problem. So go get some guys that can keep that from happening.
Random_John, when are you guys going to do a sponsored cruise vacation with Warchant?
You know, I was thinking about that. I was talking about that with Stephanie. I think we could sell. I don't know how we'd work it. Like, if we'd go through one of the we'd have to go through one of the cruise lines and say, hey, can we get a block of like 50? And can we get a discount if we do that? And then, I think we could sell, probably 50 is a bit much, but maybe 20 or 30. And then every evening we could have like a 30-minute or a 45-minute breakout session in one of the mini bars or something. I don't know. We could make something happen, right? You'd be down for that, like a Warchant cruise this summer?
That sounds ambitious. What's a Disney cruise? Like, is it Disney?
No.
Like, is that operated like everything? That's when I think like a Warchant cruise, I think it's like there's nobody on the boat but Florida State people. Like, it's not we're going to get a block on the Carnival Fun Ship. It's like it's just going to be Florida State all the time. Like, you're going to be greeted at the Warchant, and like you're going to be handed, like a garnet gold pom-pom when you get on the boat. Like, that's what I'm thinking when they talk.
Yeah, we could do that with like a yacht maybe, but I think for a cruise ship, Disney cruise is just like, I guess there's a bunch of Disney characters dancing around and there's a bunch of kids. There's no casino. I was told that. No, I would think it'd be like you'd get on a Carnival or a Royal Caribbean and it'd be a block of like 50, like it's the 50 Warchant. You get a discount because you're part of the Warchant crew. And then we'd organize stuff ourselves on the boat. Like, hey, be on the top deck at 5 o'clock. Maybe we even have an app. Be at the top deck at 5 o'clock. Corey's going to take his shirt off. Corey and Aslan are going to take their shirt off and host a 30-minute, a 30-minute conversation on the quarterbacks or something. I don't know, but yeah, I think we could it'd be a meet and greet, but on a boat. Okay. And obviously we wouldn't pay for people's tickets; they'd still have to pay to get on the boat. But then they get to hang out with us for 3 or 5 nights or something.
Let's zag real quick to Gator Kirk. What was your favorite moment of the cruise, Corey?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think I had one.
That first sunset? That wasn't your favorite moment, the first sunset leaving?
No, we were on the wrong side of the boat. I think we were too lazy to walk to the other side. Or maybe we were at dinner. I don't remember. We didn't see it, though. I think it was that there weren't any bad times of the cruise. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, it was all just pretty even keel, to keep that boat metaphor going. Like, it was just fun. There was never, like, a downtime. There was never, like, oh, this is kind of sucks or this is boring. But there also wasn't one thing that's coming to my mind right now, other than there are a couple good meals that I was like, man, that was incredible. That was awesome. But it was all, I will say this. This is probably what it is now that I think about it. Have you ever heard like of a silent disco?
No.
So it was called a hush party. And what happens is you go into their little bar nightclub area and they give you headphones. And you put on the headphones and there's 2 channels. And there's a DJ that's playing music on both channels. And you hear the music, but there's no music playing in the room.
Right.
But it's a dance party. And so people are dancing and singing along to songs really loudly, but if you take off the headphones, you don't hear any of it. So that was, and I was fine with it, man. I just sat there and watched mostly. But Stephanie loved it so much that I enjoyed watching her enjoy it like she did. Like, the problem was the first night was like the adult night version of it. The night we went, because she was bummed she missed it the first night, it was family night. So there were a bunch of teenagers there and kids. So it wasn't quite the same vibe that we wanted, but it didn't matter to Stephanie. She was dancing. The music kind of sucked on. It was a lot of YMCA and Whitney Houston, like I want to dance with somebody, that kind of stuff. But Stephanie enjoyed it. So that's what I liked the most.
I think we answered it's 2-part from random_John. What have you seen so far? Or what have you so far seen Leonard Hamilton doing to correct the issues of last season? Clearly, this is not something that be on the let's wait and see to correct. Swift and aggressive action should be taken, but then again, slow and passive got us here.
What do you think he means by slow and passive? 2 years ago, they were in the Sweet 16.
Right. Yeah.
3 years ago, they had maybe the best team in the country. So it's not like this has been a gradual decline. It was.
Two
and then
bad years,
last
though.
year,
2 bad years.
Yeah, but last year they were 6-2 in the conference and beat Duke, who made it to the Final Four. Like, they were going to the tournament in 2022 until Polite and Osborne got hurt. That was a tournament team. It was not a Final Four team, but it was a tournament team. And then their most experienced players all went down, and they ended up from 11 deep to 6 deep. So it's not like this was something you saw coming. I mean, they were going to be a tournament team in 2022. I mean, we've got to remember. I know they weren't, but those injuries did happen. The guy didn't all of a sudden forget what the sport was. And again, he's not absolved of what happened this past year, but I just wouldn't say that, I mean, literally this past 2023, I just wouldn't say that it's like this has been a gradual decline for 5 years like you saw it with Bowden. I mean, literally 3 years ago, they were one of the best teams in the country and won the ACC. 2 years ago, they were in the Sweet 16 and should have won the ACC. And then and then they were, again, like I said, they were right on track to make the tournament in January of 2022, and then they took a huge nosedive and have not come out of it. But that wasn't gradual. I don't think they've been. But the real question is, not to just take umbrage with that, is, we're still in the kind of in basketball season. We'll see, man, when it's June, what this roster is. But that's what you're going to see is people committing to Florida State. Number one, what's been kind of odd so far is you haven't seen anybody enter the portal from Florida State. That needs to be addressed somehow, I think. You need to figure out what's going on there, because I would have thought, I mean, the season ended, a month ago?
You want to be the
3
Turk.
weeks ago?
You want to go ask guys to hand in their playbook, like, hey, coach needs to see you. You want to be
I
that
do.
guy.
I don't think Leonard would do that, but I absolutely would. A couple of guys for sure that I would be like, all right, man, this just hasn't worked out. I know Leonard would never be one of the guys that wants to cut someone, but I'd be like, hey, man, this isn't going to work out. You need to go somewhere else. Like, you sure, stay. We're not going to just rip your scholarship from you. We don't do that. But you are never going to play for us. You never have a chance for playing for us. And if you don't leave right now, then anytime somebody asks about you, I'm going to tell them the truth, and I'm not going to build you up. Like, if you had schools that were interested in right now, I'd talk you up and say, yeah, he could help you out. But and that's because I'm a jerk and Leonard Hamilton isn't. But I am surprised that hasn't happened. That there hasn't been any portal entrants yet from Florida State. I do expect some to come. But yeah, let's see what the roster looks like. It is going to be a roster shakeup. It has to be. And if it isn't, Random John is absolutely right. Then you have real reason of concern of what are we doing? What is going on here? But I can promise you, when you read Ira's story that he wrote last week after sitting down with Leonard, and then also talking to Ira about just the conversations he had with Leonard, I promise Leonard is not okay with what happened, and he is making it his year's mission. I wasn't going to say life's mission. His year's mission to get this thing right and to go restack this roster. So, but give it time. It's we'll see what they end up getting out of the portal, but there will be some portal people coming.
Scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is getting Jay Wright to leave the booth at CBS and come to Tallahassee, and 1 is, I don't know, you get the assistant coach from TCU to come here. If in a week Leonard announces that this coming season will be his last year, CY's coming back to Tallahassee and will help out in a assistant coach role, but he will be the head coach in waiting, where would you fall on that 1 to 10 spectrum?
And I love CY. A 5, a 6.
Okay. I'm saying like Swift. That's the only Swift aggressive action I could see happen. Like there's.
Oh, I see. I got you what you're saying. Yeah.
All right, and then the second part. How many seasons do you feel it will take Link to get the amount of arms necessary to make FSU a true super regional contender? Given the speed at which coaching changes are made nowadays, will FSU and its brass have the patience to give him that time? What? Listen, Link Chair ain't going. They signed an 8-year, 6-7-year deal for like $800,000 a year. He's gonna have he's got all the rope in the world.
Yeah,
man.
he's got plenty of time.
I love coaching searches, but come on, guys.
He can't miss the tournament like 3 years in a row. He'd be in real trouble then, but I don't foresee that happening because he's a good coach. I am interested in what they've got to do more in the portal, man. What did they bring in? One kid, the kid from Wake that
pitching
Oxford?
Wise, yeah, I think so.
Pitching wise, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like that was a mistake. I don't know how that happened. We were talking about that yesterday. How in the world did you look at this roster and feel like you only needed one other arm? It's Florida State. You can't tell me there's not a kid at Jacksonville or Pitt or
I was thinking,
Stetson.
What about our guy Tim Becker? There's got to be somebody on the intramural team at FSU that can throw strikes. Like just throw strikes, man. That's all we need. Come on.
Yeah. Hey, sure.
Chase your dream.
Absolutely.
Chase your dream, kid.
So look, I like this freshman class, man. I mean, they got maybe not on the arms, but Cam
Ben
Smith
Barrett's
can play.
there. Ben Barrett's a
Ben
freshman.
Barrett.
Jamie Arnold's a freshman. There's something there with Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, maybe. But I think Ben Barrett could be a star. Like he's been their best pitcher other than Crowell here recently, and he's been one of their best hitters, and he's a freshman. So that's encouraging. Cam Smith's a nice player. They got some the Ross kid is going to be a really good player, I think. So I like what they did with these freshman position players. I'd like to, but I just, again, he started January by saying they were razor thin and he'd never been on a staff. He'd never been on a team with this little depth. And it's like, well, yeah, but you controlled that. You had 5 months to go figure that out. I can't foresee Florida State not being a destination for 95% of the pitchers in this country. Go find some guys that can pitch. Go find a guy that's really good at Belmont or Bucknell. I don't care, but it's bizarre that Oxford, as far as I know, maybe they had some injuries and I'm not remembering, so I don't want to speak completely out of school here.
I'm looking at it,
but as far as I know, Oxford was the only, pseudo portal guy, like big time guy, and he wasn't a big time guy. He was a middle reliever for Wake that they went and got out of the portal. It's like, man, you needed 3 or 4 other guys. You lost so many good arms off last year's team, and last year's team wasn't good. Yeah. So you knew that was going to be a weak spot, and it clearly is.
I mean, David Barrett is another arm they got, but he was at a junior college here in Florida. There's nobody else they got from a 4-year college that's a pitcher this season. So I was trying to kind of talk about that and broach it without being a jerk, but I mean, listen, the struggles continue. There will be a point. There will be some point where in a post game with Link, he'll lament his arms. And I'll be like, well, but did you not see this coming? Did you not have time? And by July, has everybody made up their mind where they're going to go? I'm not at that point yet to be a jerk.
It's a good question, though.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I think
especially
it would
in
be
hindsight, in hindsight, and more maybe not like, hey, why'd you screw up last year? But what's different this year going in when this season ends about how you're going to utilize the portal? Like, do you just have more time? You know what I mean? Like make it more of a proactive question. Like, what are you going to do different in the portal this year to make sure you don't run into this again? Because you can't just count on freshmen, like a wave of freshman arms to come in and save you. How often does that happen? You've got to go get some real dudes that have proven they can pitch at the college level.
Yeah, I need to almost go back and look at his first year at Notre Dame and see like what he did. Like, did he bring a whole bunch? Did he inherit a pretty solid roster? Did he bring in a whole bunch of guys his first year when he got there to kind of see what his plan was? Because he's done this before, man. He's not a job hopper, but listen, he's taken jobs before. He's walked into place and figured out and taken inventory and made it work. Again, it's early. It's not even April yet, but golly, shock us. Go take 2 or 3 from Virginia.
Do it, Link. Come on, guys. Go do it.
Don't get swept. All right, that's a wrap for us. We'll have a show for you tomorrow, though. It'll either be live, a live show adapted from Thursday night's show, or it'll be just some standard observations. But it'll really just be me because Corey's in Atlanta right now. So that probably wouldn't last that long. So I'll be like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Practice starts around 4-ish, so check out warchant.com around then. But before then, the Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock, 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel. Thumbs up, 5-star ratings, and reviews. Good night.